some of the phenomena we're talking about in historical context. As you mentioned, it took, as part of your plan, originally you expected 10 to 15 years to hit scale. That must have happened just shortly before the financial crisis, I expect, or if in those few years running up to that. Paul, could you take us through how the incumbents began to respond to you, having, as you mentioned, dismissed the threat for quite a while?
Well, look, in some ways, it can sound like the incumbents were sleeping at the wheel, and I've even heard that phrase. I actually find that I don't think that's fair or realistic. If I was running Sainsbury or Tesco or whatever at the same time, I'm not sure I would have done anything different, to be honest. After 10 years, Aldi had a couple of percent market share, a couple of hundred stores, or a bit less than a couple of hundred stores, was growing, was an irritation, but it wasn't really a threat. And these guys are faced with historical decisions on property, on infrastructure, and they're trying to make the best out of that for the shareholders in terms of profits. And actually, they did a very good job, I think, from year to year. But the Aldi model is this slow creeping juggernaut which just doesn't stop, and as it gets bigger, it increases by 10% every year, and that's more stores every year because you're coming off a bigger base. So first 10 years, nobody really took any notice of us, other than from time to time reminding their own supply chain, if you help these guys, first of all, you're stupid, because they're going to not only make our life difficult, but they're going to make your life difficult too, in terms of pricing and economics. And secondly, we're not going to be best pleased with you helping something that is a competitive threat. So I met a number of top managers of competition, and really senior management. They were not sleeping at the wheel. They knew what was coming, but they didn't really have the necessity or the motivation to change anything there and then. And they were all bright enough to get in an aeroplane and go and see what Aldi was like in countries where it had been operating for 15 or 20 or 25 years. So it's not realistic to say that they didn't know what's coming. Middle management, I think, were different because they weren't given any kind of inspiration from top management that this is going to be something that's going to be bloody difficult to compete with in 10 years' time. Food retail is a little bit like an army. You just need to get on with what you've got to achieve in the next month, quarter, half year, and nothing more. So from this perspective, I don't think it's fair to talk about sleeping at the wheel. What I do think is that the financial crisis accelerated things, because what actually happened in reality was the newspapers started talking about matters of confidence and consumer confidence, I'm talking about, before the consumer actually had less money in their pocket, and giving tips and just trying to be able to sell their newspapers with helpful and useful tips on how you might save money if life became tougher. And one of the things that they talked about is, why don't you try these new discount stores which are popping up everywhere? We've tried them, and actually we are rather surprised at the quality level that you can get from them. Now, if that financial crisis had happened 10 years earlier, they wouldn't have come to that conclusion. They would have said, we've tried them, and a lot of the products taste a bit funny and a bit different to what you're normally used to. But it just happened to come at the point where the Aldi and Lidl, for that matter, offer was maturing, and they had enough scale and buying power to be able to purchase exactly the products they want. So there was a bit of luck involved in that. The financial crisis definitely helped propel the business into the consumer's mind. And of course, it works a little bit like word of mouth momentum after that. If actually the majority of people are quite satisfied with this new concept, which they tried during that time, then they tend to tell people to other people, and the whole thing mushrooms from there.